Hello, Falcons Nation! We bring you the latest on the Atlanta Falcons. Before we jump into today's exclusive update, take a second to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss a thing, especially as we gear up for a pivotal weekend. Let's dive into the headlines, and trust me, you'll want to stick around for this one. The Falcons are making moves ahead of Sunday's matchup against the Vikings. Wide receiver Chris Blair has been promoted from the practice squad to the active roster. This marks his third elevation this season, having previously reported for games against the Steelers and Saints. However, there's a catch. This is Blair's final practice squad elevation of the year. If the team wants to get him back on the field after this weekend, they'll need to sign him to the active roster. Blair has been used primarily on special teams, with 6 snaps played thus far, and he'll likely be looking to make a bigger impact this time around. Meanwhile, defensive lineman Rook Orhororo remains sidelined with an ankle injury, and wide receiver Casey Washington has been ruled out with a concussion. These absences put additional pressure on both sides of the ball as the Falcons face a tough opponent. But let's address the elephant in the room, Kirk Cousins. The veteran quarterback is under intense scrutiny as he prepares to face his former team. For Cousins, this could be a make-or-break game, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The Vikings' defense, led by blitz-happy Brian Flores, is a nightmare matchup for a quarterback who has struggled under pressure this season. Cousins has faced harsh criticism after a string of disappointing performances. In recent games, his decision-making has been questionable, with interceptions that have left fans and analysts scratching their heads. One scout bluntly stated that Cousins doesn't look good, citing a lack of speed and power on his throws. NFL analyst Brian Baldinger echoed that sentiment, noting that the quarterback's arm isn't what it used to be. These assessments raise serious questions about Cousins' ability to lead the Falcons. Head coach Raheem Morris now finds himself in a precarious position. Does he stick with Cousins and hope for a turnaround, or pull the trigger and give rookie Michael Penix Jr. his chance? It's not an easy decision, especially when you consider the message it sends to the locker room. One rival general manager summed it up best: "You're doing more than just changing the quarterback, you're sending a signal to your team." Penix has shown flashes of potential, but throwing him into the fire against an elite Vikings defense would be a bold move. Still, if Cousins struggles early, the pressure to make a change may be too great to ignore. This game is more than just another matchup on the schedule. It's an opportunity for Cousins to silence his critics and solidify his role as the Falcons' leader. On the other hand, it's also a chance for the team to explore new options if things don't go as planned. Either way, Sunday's game has huge implications, not just for this season, but for the future of the franchise. So, Falcons fans, it's your turn. Do you think Kirk Cousins can bounce back and prove he still has what it takes, or is it time to hand the reins over to Michael Penix Jr.? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell, who worked with Cousins for 2 seasons, spoke to the media this week about the challenges of facing his former quarterback. O'Connell was measured in his comments, but his respect for Cousins was clear. He called him an accurate and intelligent passer who thrives on timing and rhythm. He can easily put together a performance that keeps his defense fighting, O'Connell noted. And he's not wrong. Falcons fans know that Cousins is capable of taking control of a game when he's at his best. O'Connell has seen Cousins' heroics up close, including his unforgettable 2022 comeback against the Colts. In that game, the Vikings erased a 33-point halftime deficit with Cousins throwing for an astonishing 460 yards. It was the biggest comeback in NFL history, and moments like that are why O'Connell understands the threat Cousins brings to the table. But let's not forget, this isn't the same Kirk Cousins. At 36 years old, and coming off an Achilles tour, Cousins signed a 4-year, $180 million contract with Atlanta in the offseason. While the Falcons view him as their leader, the Vikings were ready to move on, and so far, it appears they've adjusted well. Behind Sam Darnold, Minnesota is 10-2 this season, while the Falcons are 6-6 under Cousins. Sunday's game is about more than just stats, though. U.S. Bank Stadium will be rocking, and Cousins himself is expecting a hostile reception from the fans who once cheered him on. They're big football fans, and I think they're going to be as hostile as they can be to us, Cousins admitted. The Vikings faithful will no doubt be loud, but it's up to Cousins and the Falcons to silence the crowd and make a statement. Now, this is where you come in, Falcons fans. What do you think of Kirk Cousins' return to Minnesota? Do you think he'll rise to the occasion and lead Atlanta to victory, or will the Vikings' home field advantage and new-look offense prove too much? The Falcons are heading into Sunday's matchup against the Vikings short-handed, especially when it comes to their rookie class. This group hasn't made much of an impact this season, and unfortunately, that trend looks set to continue. The team announced that rookie running back Jace McClellan, defensive tackle Rook Orhorhoro, and wide receiver Casey Washington are all ruled out for the game. Let's break down what that means. Jace McClellan was officially ruled out on Friday with a knee injury. Meanwhile, Rook Orhorhoro, who had just returned to practice this week after an ankle injury, has been downgraded to out. This marks a frustrating setback for Orhorhoro, who has shown flashes of potential during his limited action this season. The 6'4", 300-pound defensive tackle has recorded 5 tackles and 1 quarterback hit in 63 defensive snaps through 4 games. While Orhorhoro remains within the 21-day window to return from injured reserve, this delay raises questions about how soon he will be back in action. Casey Washington, on the other hand, was added to the injury report on Saturday with a concussion. Washington, a 6th-round rookie, has been quietly making strides. He recorded his first NFL catch for 14 yards earlier this season, which also happened to be quarterback Michael Penix Jr.'s first professional completion. Unfortunately, Washington's impact has been limited to special teams and a few offensive snaps, and now he's sidelined again after suffering a head injury during Week 11's loss to the Broncos. With Washington out, the Falcons have elevated wide receiver Chris Blair from the practice squad. This is Blair's 3rd and final elevation for the season, meaning if the team wants to use him again after this weekend, they'll need to sign him to the active roster. Blair hasn't had much playing time this season, but this could be his chance to step up. Now, let's shift gears to what's likely to be the biggest challenge of the game, defending Minnesota's all-pro wide receiver, Justin Jefferson. Falcons defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake spoke candidly about the threat Jefferson poses, and let's just say it's a daunting one. Lake described Jefferson as being above the elite, a level reserved for only a handful of players in the league. And he's not wrong. Jefferson's numbers speak for themselves. He's averaging 86.5 receiving yards per game this season and remains the NFL's all-time leader in career receiving yards per game at 96.3. But Jefferson isn't the only weapon the Falcons need to worry about. The Vikings also have second-year receiver Jordan Addison, who's averaging an impressive 16 yards per reception. Between Jefferson and Addison, the Vikings have a dynamic duo that's capable of torching defenses if given the chance. This presents a massive challenge for a Falcons secondary that's struggled this season, ranking 21st in pass defense. Cornerbacks A.J. Terrell and Mike Hughes, assuming Hughes plays, will need to bring their A-game, but they can't do it alone. Pressure on the quarterback is critical, and while the Falcons have struggled in that area, they're currently last in the NFL with just 15 sacks this season. They showed signs of life in Week 13 with a 5-sack performance against the Chargers. Creating consistent pressure on Sunday will be key to limiting Jefferson and Addison's impact. If the Falcons' pass rush can disrupt Kirk Cousins' rhythm, it'll make life much easier for the secondary. Otherwise, as Lake put it, Jefferson could become a problem, a big problem. So, Falcons fans, here's where I turn it over to you. How do you feel about the team's chances this Sunday? Do you think the defense can step up and contain Jefferson, or will this be another tough outing for our secondary? And what are your thoughts on the rookie class? Are you concerned about the lack of production, or do you see brighter days ahead? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Before you go, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty more content coming your way as the Falcons fight to stay in the playoff race. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, rise up.